big catalyst for the sell-off really was a Saudi decision to slash the official selling price to Asia. I mean, the market had really gotten bid up, as you talked about, the weak dollar, the reflation trade, but the fundamentals had always been pretty precarious. I mean, very weak refining margins. This was a market that, when the fundamental picture was really being driven by China. Demand looked tepid elsewhere. And so with that slashing of official selling prices, I think people are starting to look now. We're going into the shoulder season in terms of refinery maintenance. People are starting to really be concerned about demand. They're concerned about uptick in COVID-19 cases globally. So right now, it looks like fundamentals are driving price as opposed to the macro trade we had seen in the last couple of weeks.
You know, we can be a little myopic here in the United States. Let's just all agree on that, particularly on the East Coast. What are you seeing from global demand? There are parts of the world which has gone relatively back to normal, and there are parts of the world which is still suffering.
Right. I mean, this has been a market, and you look at the fundamental picture, there was a lot of Chinese buying. I mean, we've really seen it's been the Chinese driver. It's been essentially people getting on planes in China, but also the Chinese government putting oil into strategic stockpiles as well. And so the Chinese demand number looked healthy. India, by contrast, not so much. And so again, when we think about this market, it really was, from a fundamental perspective, being driven by the recovery in China. And why I think people are so nervous is when the Saudis are cutting official selling prices into Asia, people are concerned about the health of the all-important Asian market.
Well, China was buying in part because they could buy on the cheap. They were filling up their inventories when oil prices were low. What do you see from Chinese demand in the next couple of weeks and months, Halima?
Well, again, I mean, we think Chinese demand is, it remains the key cornerstone of this market. The question, though, is it enough, Ryan? And I go to the really important OPEC meeting next week because there's a real question, because the OPEC producers have started putting additional barrels back on this market. And so the question is, do they believe the demand picture is robust enough to continue this process of easing, which they started over the summer? They did the biggest cut in history in the spring, and they've started now easing those cuts. And the question is, was it too much too soon?
Do you think it was?
Well, again, the concern I have is once you start putting those barrels on the market, can you correct quickly if there is a material change in the demand outlook? At the last OPEC JMMC meeting, you had the Saudi oil minister say, essentially, we can call a meeting in 24 hours if necessary. But now that you have producers starting to put those barrels on the market, are they going to be willing to be first movers in pulling back those barrels?